Check. There we go. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Grassroots in the Summer.
Yeah.
Summer edition.
Summer edition.
Yeah. We're so glad you're here. And if you're new here, a special welcome. And we're just going to have a few announcements here, and then we'll get moving with our morning. Well, you know what? Did everyone pick up one of these? It's good practice.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't.
It's true.
If you didn't, I'll give you a few things. Just one thing is, this whole building is under renovation this whole summer, so be very careful. If bathrooms are the small bathrooms, don't worry, you still can fit in them, but they're much smaller than you might be used to.
And there's still an accessible...
And there's still an accessible bathroom, and it's a porta potty outside, and so you can use that. Next Sunday, if you see in your bulletin, planning a service at Trowbridge Falls. Or no, is that next Sunday or is it the Sunday after? Yes, next. So stay tuned for details on that. And if you're interested in getting baptized, you can email Steve B at grassroots.church, and he'd love to hear from you. So please, why don't you stand with me, and we will get going with Matt and the band. And we'll just start our morning. Jesus, we're gathered here today, and we're here because we want to be part of in your presence, and we want to be with other people who also want to be in your presence. And so we gather here with the hope that you'll meet us here and be with us in whatever state we're in this morning, and with us as we encourage each other and learn from you. So we ask for your presence with us this morning. Amen.
Thanks, Scott, for taking care of announcements and speaking this morning later. Morning, everyone. Thanks for being standing and ready to worship. Just a quick note. I had a reminder this morning. I don't know if anyone noticed the storm last night, but our printer did not live through the storm, unfortunately. So I will be using an iPad and trying to do music that way, because I found out this morning. So apologize if there's like brief pauses in the middle of songs, and I'm sure it just gives you more time to worship in between. So we're going to get started in singing this song that's, I don't know, it's meant a lot to me. It's this song called, here, let me scroll up to the title, I Have This Hope. And if you don't know it, just, I guess just meditate on the words, and those of you who do, please sing out, sing loud. As I walk this great unknown, questions come and questions go. Was there a purpose for the pain, or did I cry these tears in vain? I don't want to live in fear. I want to trust that you are near. Trust your grace can be seen in both triumph and tragedy. I have this hope in the depths of my soul. In the flood or the fire, you're with me and you won't let go. But sometimes my faith feels thin, like the night will never end. Will you catch every tear, or will you just leave me here? Let's sing that again. Sometimes my faith feels thin, but sometimes my faith feels thin, like the night will never end. Will you catch every tear, or will you just leave me here? I have this hope. I have this hope in the depths of my soul. In the flood or the fire, you're with me. I have this hope in the depths of my soul. In the flood or the fire, you're with me and you won't let go. Whatever happens, I will not be afraid. Whatever happens, I will not be afraid. 'Cause you are closer than this breath that I take. You calm the storm when I hear you call my name. I still believe that one day I'll see your face. I have this hope in the depths of my soul. In the flood or the fire, you're with me. I have this hope in the depths of my soul. In the flood or the fire, you're with me and you won't let go. In the flood or the fire, you're with me and you won't let go. In the flood or the fire, you're with me and you won't let go. Almost needed to ask a 9-year-old to come up here and help me real quick. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. In green pastures he makes me lie down. He restores my soul and leads me on for his name, his great name. Surely goodness, surely mercy, right beside me all my days. I will dwell in your house forever and bless your holy name. You prepare a table right before me in the presence of my enemies. Though the arrow flies and the terror of night is at my door, I trust you, Lord. Surely goodness, surely mercy, right beside me all my days. I will dwell in your house forever and bless your holy name.
of the shadow of day, I will fear no evil. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you are on my side. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you are on my side. Surely goodness, surely mercy, right beside me all my day. I will dwell in your house forever and bless your holy name, and bless your holy name. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from every fear. Those who look on him are radiant, never be ashamed, never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard me and saved me from my enemies. The Son of God surrounds his saints, will deliver them, will deliver them. Magnify the Lord with me. Come exalt his name together. Glorify the Lord with me. Come exalt his name forever. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, blessed is he who hides in him. Oh, fear the Lord. Oh, all you saints, give you everything, give you everything. Sing, magnify. Magnify the Lord with me. Come exalt his name together. Glorify the Lord with me. Come exalt his name forever. Let us bless the Lord every day and night. Never-ending praise, may our incense rise. Let us bless the Lord every day and night. Never-ending praise, may our incense rise. Magnify the Lord with me. Come exalt his name together. Glorify the Lord with me. come exalt his name forever.
We're going to sing one more song, a hymn, Be Thou My Vision, which is mercifully on one page. And I don't have to scroll between. Be Thou My Vision, O Lord of my heart. Be Thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. Not be all else to me, save that Thou art. Thou my best art, by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my life. Be Thou my wisdom, and Thou my true word. I ever with Thee, and Thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, and I Thy true Son. Thou in me dwelling, and I with Thee one. Riches I heed not, riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. Thou mine inheritance now and always. Thou and Thou only be first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure Thou art. Let's sing, oh God, be my everything. Oh God, be my everything, be my delight. Be Jesus my glory, my soul satisfied. Oh God, be my everything, be my delight. Be Jesus my glory, my soul satisfied. Be my compassion, my love for the poor. Break my distractions so I can't ignore the least of your children, the ones you adore. For by them, Jesus, I worship you, Lord. Sing, oh God, be my everything. Oh God, be my everything, be my delight. Be Jesus my glory, my soul satisfied. Oh God, be my everything, be my delight. Be Jesus my glory, You may be seated.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott.
Well, if you are a child and you want to be warm in another room, you may go and to the back, and you can go for Sunday school if you're under grade 6 and enjoy. Like that? How's that? Okay. Well, welcome this morning. This is, Matt, it was funny because I think the main storm was actually in the south of town. Did the north end of town get a crazy thunderstorm too? Minor. I texted a few friends and they said it was sprinkling. We got literally, I think lightning hit, I don't know where, but I was concerned about our electronics as well. You know, the only thing that that the fuse blew on was my Vitamix. I was like, what? It said Air 18. I'm like, no, this is the best part of our entire kitchen. I can't. Anyway, the old unplug, give it 5 minutes, plug it back in. Thankfully, the fuse reset itself. So the Vitamix was saved. But Matt's printer wasn't, which is not a good sign. Okay, I think I left the Max. Do you mind? I think I left the slide advancer thing-a-doodle. Oh, thank you so much. You guys are all looking out for me. Well, like I said, Matt said, my name's Scott, and I just attend this church. And it's been a long time since I've been up here, I think. And part of that is because I've declined 100% of the time Steve's asked me if I wanted to do this. And I don't know why I do that. It's partly because under the auspices of giving other people the opportunity, but also because it's nerve-wracking and it's not something that I always look forward to. But last night I was like, I feel like there's something here. And so welcome this morning. I think we want to, I hope this morning we can get a little bit of a glimpse of what's wrong. Out further? Is that better? You don't want to hear every little part of my mouth moving? Okay. Thanks, guys. So the other thing that terrifies me about being up here was Steve announced that this was going to be an interactive summer, and I'm like, heck no, am I going to do something like that? However, last week and the week before, when we had some others, Rich and then the other Scott, shared, it was great. You guys are great. If there's something that we want to talk, ask questions about, I don't think there's people in this audience who feel like if you don't feel like saying something, don't say something. If I ask a question and there's nervous silence, then I'll move on. It's not a big deal, okay? So it is going to be interactive, and then I might ask a few questions. And if you want to shout out something, last week it worked great. I loved it. Rich did a great job, and so let's move on with that. So today, and also to preface this, we're getting into the parables, and this whole series has been on that. And again, we're not trying to find answers, but we're here to raise questions. So hopefully we can get into that a bit this morning. So I titled this "The Kingdom of God is Like," and part of it is, when we get into it, was really this theme of the underdog. And I know when we look into the scriptures, it's everywhere with, we have David and Goliath and all these other, basically every story starts with a small thing that was able to do something bigger because God was part of it. And I think, I'm trying to figure out if it's because of, it's just so long-standing, but our whole culture is all about this, this theme of starting small and going bigger. And maybe in your mind, I was thinking of like, most movies have this as their theme. So we can try some interaction now. What is something or a story of an underdog? What's your favorite underdog story movie, maybe? Because there's lots of them. Lord of the Rings? Okay. Anyone else? Anyone watch movies? Okay, just me and John. Oh, yeah, good one. We watched that again recently. It's an evergreen movie. That one's always a good movie. What's that? Are you saying a joke to me? Oh. Princess Diaries? Oh, I was thinking of Princess Bride. I have not seen The Princess Diaries. I have no idea what it's about. But The Princess Bride is a good movie. Anyway, Slumdog Millionaire? Sure. I got a few as well that I came up with. Yeah, that one's totally fits there, Vincent. Maybe we can have someone advance a slide for me because I think it's not working for me. Okay, thanks, Heather. Perfect. So, I mean, there's some obvious ones like Rocky, and then the movie Rudy. That one I always think it's super cornball, and then I watch and I'm like, I love this. I just like that story. And then, of course, The Pursuit of Happiness is one of those ones, and that one's pretty poignant actually for someone coming. I love that movie too. These are some of my faves. There's some underdog stories happening right now. I mean, if Canada had won their soccer tournament, that would have been the ultimate underdog story, I think. But they lost. So we're going to get into that too. Maybe that's still important. But another one is if you're watching the tour, just any cycling fans, we have the very first African winner in the Tour de France. So his name's Biniam Girmay. He's from Eritrea. He's currently in the green jersey, which is the sprinter's jersey. And he's the first one to ever win a stage in the tour. And he's the first African to, or black African. Anyway, we'll get into that. But Chris Froome's from Kenya, and he won. But anyway, he's not black. But Biniam, that's a great story happening right now. I'm following it. It's super good. Everyone loves him. He's just super popular, awesome dude. And then, of course, we get into kind of the meta of the underdog stories, where we get into like mocking the underdog by having the underdog. So maybe I grew up watching Underdog, which was a 1960s cartoon. It's funny in the 80s how they just recycled and you watched all these things, they thought it was new. And then there was even the more meta one, The Tick, which was like the jokes on, is it still doing bad things? Okay, should I just go to this thing? Okay. And then I'm not following like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I think there's some very meta things with that too. So I guess we just love this story. We think we don't, or maybe we don't, but then when we see it, we always root for that. We always go there. And why is it a great story? Well, one is, it's not predictable. Like if the best person always wins, or if the best thing always happens, we don't tend to watch that kind of thing. We're not entertained by that. It's not something that really gets to us. And why are we so attracted to it? Well, I think part of it is it could be anyone. Oh, one more, Heather. There we go. I think it also resonates with our sense of empathy and hope. Sorry if that's micro font. I hope you brought your glasses. I'll just say them too. Oh, okay. You know what? We're just going to move over to this. Thanks, Matt. Is that better? So much better. I feel better too. I was worried that sometimes when you get nervous, your hands start shaking, and then it doesn't work quite very well. So if that happens, my apologies. But why are we so attracted to it? It resonates with our sense of empathy and hope. I'm going to follow along in my notes since that's too small for even me to read. It often showcases individuals or teams overcoming significant obstacles which taps into our admiration of perseverance and resilience. So we kind of need that. We need someone to try in order to root for it, right? We want that. We want them to, or the story to have something that has an obstacle that you overcome. It's super boring if there's no obstacles. No one pays attention to that. It's not interesting. But the other thing it does work sometimes. It makes us feel needed and connected, and we root for those who face unfair disadvantages. So it's kind of that need to really see what's right. I think it gets into that realm too. Making sure that the right things happen. So making things right is for the person who's disadvantaged to make it right. That's fair. That's just, and we're attracted to that. And then the last tiny font is that it inspires us. It demonstrates that success is possible even against the odds, which can be incredibly motivating in our own lives. And I know I find inspiration in that we have stories of people making it, and that's why we try, is we see the people who look like us or do things like us. That's why it's so important that we have diverse people doing different things and making it, because we identify with that person and we want to become that. We want to follow that path, and we see that they've made it, so we want to make it. I forgot to be interactive with this part, but that's okay. Any other thoughts? If you want to shout it out, why you might be attracted to the underdog story that's not up here, or add to that. No worries. So I think we come to the template of this whole thing. And of course, that's with Jesus. And how does that tie in? And I hope we can come at the end of this to just something that we see as part of that this whole underdog part is a piece of it, but it's definitely not the whole thing. And we see that when we get this Jesus' beginning, where it says in the Gospels, it talks about growing up in Nazareth and how they exclaim, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" And it's funny because I was driving one of my kids to work this week, and we heard about this singer who made it to America's Got Talent. He's from Atikokan, and my kid goes, "Can anything good come out of Atikokan?" And I'm like, there we go. So we have our friend Alex Sampson, and I actually watched it. It's pretty heartwarming and charming, and he's from Atikokan. I don't know if you've been to Atikokan. Have anyone been to Atikokan? Some of you, yeah. It's an interesting place. It's not, the last time I was there was a Sunday. My wife and I were having a weekend away, and we didn't have enough food. So we were in a cabin, and we had to go into Atikokan for food. Guess what's open in Atikokan on a Sunday? The bargain shop. So guess where we bought dinner? The bargain shop. If you've ever had a dinner based off things from the bargain shop, and this was celebrating 20 years of marriage. I mean, if that doesn't pull us through, and then I don't know what else does. But the Atikokan's not a big place by any stretch. And to have someone act, it is impressive. It is impressive. I'll give Alex the benefit, or not benefit, but let's give him props where it's due. He's made it through, and he's from Atikokan. Can anything good come from Atikokan? Well, certainly not mining, if you know the history of Atikokan, but this does. And the other thing is this is something. It's funny when you prepare a message, you think of things that have already been said 1,000 times, but every time it hits a bit different. Just that Jesus' beginning, again, was from his disciples he chose, not the ones who, would he have chosen me? I went to university. I have a PhD in soil science. Would that impress him? It doesn't impress very many people, but maybe it would impress him. But would he choose someone university educated? Probably not. And he also chose people that we'd boo for, like boo when we see Matthew on stage, or come on the scene, because he's from that tax collector. Did I say something wrong? Oh, my family's just laughing at me. I don't know. Oh, yeah. When Matt comes on stage, we're going to boo him. That's what we're going to do. Matthew, the disciple, was a tax collector and someone that, as we would associate definitely with all things wrong with our society and what we want to, claim to be against in terms of being fair, being for the just, and all that kind of thing, is the tax collectors definitely did not have that reputation. So, with all that preamble, we're just going to get into what, this font is tiny. I'm so sorry. Thankfully, it's these, this is the summer. We can just relax and close our eyes and listen to me read it. The parables, there's two parables. It's the parables of the mustard seed and the yeast. And it's in Matthew, and I didn't put the chapter. Whatever. We're going to go to verse 31. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. And he told them still another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked through the dough. So a few things come out to me for that one, for this. You know what, I think we're just going to keep moving. But yeah, there's a few things that come out to me for this. One of them is this whole, one thing that intrigues me always is when they talk about something becomes so big, becomes a tree. I'm like, I know the definition of these things, and that definitely is not a tree. Trees have to have lignin, and mustard plants definitely don't have lignin. They don't have concentric rings that grow annually. So what's going on? What is Jesus getting at with this? Why would he, and even, his audience wasn't foresters or whatever, but they did understand what he's going at. And I think this is what he was getting at. He was going back into the Old Testament. He's talking when in Ezekiel 17, he says, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set forth an allegory and tell it to the Israelites as a parable. Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. A great eagle with powerful wings, long feathers, and full plumage of various colors came to Lebanon. Taking hold of the top of a cedar, he broke off its topmost shoot and carried it away to a land of merchants, where he planted it in a city of traders. And then it goes on for like 20 verses talking about how this shoot of this cedar is being given to, it's kind of like the parable of the sower, where it's the good ground and the bad ground. And it's going to talk about how basically Israel's going to go to Babylon and in exile because of the disobedience of the leaders and all that kind of stuff. So that it's talking about that. And he's saying this shoot is not going to do well. It's going to go and it's not going to grow because this is what's going to happen. You've failed to be leaders here. And then at the end of Ezekiel 17, it says, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself will take a shoot from the very top of a cedar and plant it. I'll break off its tender sprig from its topmost shoots and plant it on a high and lofty mountain. On the mountain heights of Israel, I will plant it. It will produce branches and bear fruit and become a splendid cedar. Birds of every kind will nest in it, and they'll find shelter in the shade of its branches. So Jesus is getting back. Clearly, the cedars of Lebanon, we've kind of seen that or if we've heard that as a phrase. If you look at the flag of Lebanon, it's actually just a big cedar. I love it. Maybe that's the other place I'd want to visit sometime with, we've got Canada with our leaf, and they've got a tree. I think those are the only two. But I think it's clear to the audience that he's referencing this passage of rescue, of God coming in and making this place a safe place for everyone to come to. And I'm just going to I think I have a visual. Yeah, I kind of cut it off, but on the left, that's the most giant mustard plant you'll ever see. So it does grow pretty big. I'll give it that. I think birds could probably get in there and have some rest and shelter. And on the right, we have a cedar, a Lebanese cedar. And I'm going to put them together to see reference. Now, which one's bigger? Which one would you find is majestic? Would you think of the tiny thing as a majestic plant? I think this is Jesus being a little bit, needling here and trying to get more out of it, because he could have easily said cedar, because cedars did grow. He could have easily said that in this parable. It would have made total sense, because they also have tiny seeds. All things start from tiny seeds except an avocado. Or mangoes, I don't know. There's some giant seeds, but most of them are tiny. And cedars are no different. They're probably the same size as mustard seeds. So what's Jesus getting at? Why didn't he just say cedar tree? And I came across this as kind of an interesting thing from Pliny the Elder in AD 78. He writes that mustard is extremely beneficial for health. It grows entirely wild, though it is improved by being transplanted. But on the other hand, once it has been sown, it's scarcely possible to get the place free of it, as the seed, when it falls, germinates at once. To me, what does this tell you? What is this describing? Invasive species? Weed? Something you don't want around generally? He's like, you can plant this, but you might regret that. It's not going away. What are some of the, in the gardeners in the house, what are some things that you're constantly getting rid of in your garden or your area? Any idea? They're there. They just keep coming back. Dandelions, yep. Yes, thistles, yeah. Quackgrass, crabgrass. Yeah, I've got they've got crabgrass here, ragweed. This is from southern Ontario. They have poison sumac, which I hope doesn't migrate here with climate change. It's not a fun one to get. It's worse. I don't like it. Of course I don't like it. But there's lots of weeds that we could think of. And if we want to move this analogy over into the tree world, I have my least favorite tree list. I also have a favorite tree list, and I have a least favorite tree list. These are my least favorite trees in northern Ontario. So I purposely didn't put them nice and, I didn't give them the dignity of being centered as photos. They're just there. And so the top left one, any guesses on what that one is? Yeah, poplar tree. Why don't I like poplar trees? Well, I kind of like them, okay? But they're very difficult when you're looking to establish forests back into their natural state from after, part of what we do in forestry is you have to, if you had a spruce forest, it has to be spruce when you come back. If you had a pine trees that you cut down, there has to be pine trees back. It's called free to grow. You have to promise, there's a third-party auditor that walks out and says, you cut down pine trees, there's pine trees back here, here's your check mark, and see you in 80 years when you want to cut them again. That's called, that's how we work, and that's how we make sure things are renewable. Well, guess what? Poplar comes in and ruins everything because it just plops up everywhere. And part of it's because of its succession and ecology and all that stuff. It just grows like, yeah. And the other thing is there's not much we can do with it. You can't make structural timber out of it. You can't do anything really useful with it. Actually, my job in the government right now is to actually find uses for poplar and try to see what we can do with it to use it as a species. And if you want to talk to me afterwards, I can talk to you all day about all the cool things that we're coming up with from the science side with poplar. Any guesses on what the next one over to the right is? Manitoba maple, the old Mannies. They're similar. You might, if you forget to mow your lawn for a few weeks, this is what's coming up. And it looks kind of nice because it goes like this, but when it goes like this over your house, and then it's extremely weak, so in a windstorm, it's going to fall on your house, and it's impossible to split because it grows like this, and it doesn't grow big enough to do anything with, and it is just the more you cut it, the more it comes back. It has these roots that it's like, oh, you cut me? Well, roots, we're going to come up over here, and it just goes everywhere. And then my last one, any guesses on the bottom one? I had to pick a coniferous one. It's just the needles. Yeah, it's not spruce, not spruce. Balsam fir. Balsam fir. Why don't I like balsam fir? Same things. It's very difficult. If you have balsam fir in your product mix, coming to a sawmill, it'll gum up your saw blades. And it also is very susceptible to the falsely named spruce budworm. So it actually is the thing that dies and causes a lot of forest fires because it's the first thing to really die. And it just goes up like a Christmas tree because we use them as Christmas trees. Okay, that's my forestry rant. Maybe you learned something. But the whole point that we're getting back to after this diatribe on trees is the sense that Jesus is getting at something more than, this whole lofty ambition of being a cedar tree. Why is he choosing mustard? What in the world is that going about? And I came across this great blog, and I'll read it out, of why a mustard tree or plant. It may appear to be small, scruffy, ragtag, not much to look at, but watch out. It will grow into something large and firmly rooted, in which some will find shelter in, and others, like exploiting the rich, will find obnoxious and disruptive, because you can't make money off of it. You will never be able to fully get rid of it because it wants to grow. It wants to take over. And just when you think you've stamped it out, you'll find another shoot or two growing somewhere else. The kingdom of God is uncontrollable, tenacious, impossible to eradicate. I love it. I think it's great. I think Jesus is getting at something with this mustard thing. So I listened to a brief homily from Richard Rohr, and he talks about the mustard seed conspiracy. So here's a few points that I've taken from it. And kind of the point of this summer series is for lay people like us to say, hey, here's a few things that we've taken. Maybe there's some things that resonate with you. So here's a few points that I took from it, and I think it's great. This mustard seed conspiracy. We prefer to see change and power visually, but real growth and real holiness starts in an entirely different way. Oh, you know what? My computer's not attached to there we go. I like this as well. People with power cannot be trusted unless they've made journeys of powerlessness. And this also goes with the parable of the leaven. I think it's also there. Growth happens almost secretly. It's so small, and it happens, you really don't see it happening, but it happens almost secretly. Most of us don't feel very important, that our lives are just little mustard seeds that God is hardly noticing or caring about. But this is the promise, that this is what God cares about. That the birds of the sky can find shelter. And I really like this part from Richard Rohr. He said, people can find a love they can trust. A life that is believable. A hope that is built on something real and not just fancy words. You are such people. We all feel insignificant. We all feel little and that we don't matter. And he ends his homily by saying, it is this way that God is slowly changing the world. I really like that. If we go over to Mark's version of the same events, he does the parable of the mustard seed, but then he goes immediately over. He doesn't talk about the leaven. He just says, with many similar parables, Jesus spoke the word to them, as much as they could understand. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. So we get this the sense that there was actually lots of them. So one thing I want us to make sure we think of when we think of the parable of the mustard seed is that it is by no means pigeonholing God into that. We have to expound upon that as the thing of what we can see the kingdom of God is like. Many similar parables. And I think we need to use our imaginations as well when we think about this, and how there's so many different ways that we can think of the kingdom of God is like. And I had some fun thinking of those kinds of things myself this week. And I mean, one of them even relates to how we see ourselves in the world. I know we can really feel insignificant when we're doing our part with recycling, or with, the spring up to clean up, which was our church did, and we went around a very small part of the city and collected what we thought was an enormous amount of trash, but is really how if you see one dump truck going to the dump on John Street Road, it's like we didn't even make a dent in what's going on. Why do we do those things? Why do we care? Is that symbolic of all of us really making sure? I think it is. I think there's a deep sense of we're part of something when we're doing something, even when it feels almost impossible. I have one more. Can I talk about trees one more time? Okay, we have one more. I'm glad you're here, Jen. So this is one more parable that I think Jesus would say if he was in northwestern Ontario. The kingdom of God is like a jack pine seed. Now, jack pine seeds are different than other tree seeds. Does anyone know what's special about them? So this is what's, I have one in my pocket. One sec. So this one's a green one, but even when they mature, they just look like that, and they stay on the branches forever. And it's called serotiny, or serotinous cones. And what that is that its ecosystem is built around a fire coming through every 40, 50 years, or whatever. That's what renews a forest, is fire in northern Ontario. Suppressing fire has its whole bunch of consequences, and we can also talk about that. And so what we've done as humankind is suppress these fires because we don't like our stuff burning. But these cones require heat to open. They need at least 50 degrees Celsius. So too hot for a hot summer's day, even today doesn't come close. But they need heat to open. And then even when they open, they don't germinate right away. They need a thing called stratification, which means they need a period of cold. So they actually need the winter to be cool enough for X number of weeks so that they can actually start growing as soon as it's warm enough to start growing. Because let's say a fire happened now and it started to grow, it wouldn't have enough time to grow before winter, right? And so these are just amazing things. And so I have a friend who I tend to talk about these things all the time. I thought I was being annoying on this really long car ride with my friend, and he actually, turns out he loved it, but we're talking about serotinous cones, or I was talking about serotinous cones, he wasn't. But he was going through a really, really hard time in his life, and I found a branch with jack pine cones for him, and I gave it to him, and he put it in his car, and guess how hot cars get? Over 50 degrees, because his cones opened. So he was so excited. He called me, he said, these jack pine cones opened, the seeds have dropped. I'm like, don't plant them, they need to stratify. But really he wants to plant this tree because for him it's symbolic of, he's gone through some really hard things. This heat had to come to open up, this hard time, this heat or whatever, fire had to come and to make the seeds even viable and open. And he wants to plant this as part of a renewal for his own journey. And I thought that was super inspiring. So there you go. Would Jesus have talked about serotinous cones? I sure hope so. Maybe it's in the Message version. So, takeaways. The underdog could be anyone, and this is what I struggle with. But can it be everyone? Because the issue we have with the underdog story is that one person makes it, right? It's always that. And what about if everyone makes it, is it an underdog story? So the question keeps going, does the underdog motif fully capture the essence of the kingdom? And I think this is where we get to a bit of the cheapening, if we can call it that, with always thinking of it as this underdog is like where we're going with it. So is the narrative of the story simply to keep trying our little efforts, and then maybe someday our little seed becomes a beautiful tree and then finally meaningful? And this is the movie, right? This is what happens in the movie. It only counts when it becomes big and becomes meaningful. And the story always focuses on whether it's pursuit of happiness. What about all the other non-Will Smiths who didn't make it? What happened to them? Was their life not meaningful? All that kind of stuff, or all the other stories of the whatever. And so, yes, Jesus is always subverting our way of thinking. But tomorrow is not more meaningful than today. You are not more valued tomorrow than you are today. Jesus continues to bash over our heads that the meek shall inherit the earth. The last shall be first. God oppresses the proud, but gives grace to the humble. We often equate value with our profession, and this drives me crazy, even though I do it all the time. Is God's kingdom really like everyone starting small and then getting their dream job? Or do we only count for God if we're doing it vocationally, like doing it as a living? I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I tell you, I'm getting a little jaded with how much this whole scheme of the underdog success is tied to your worth. Follow your dreams or follow God, and you'll move on from here to something better and more meaningful. And I find that, I don't know if you can resonate with that, but I find it gross. I don't think it's true. I think that is the movie, and that's not real. That's not reality. What about your server at the last place you ate? What about the recycling truck driver? Even though they get to drive those cool new trucks, they're still recycling truck drivers, and do they want to do something different with their lives? Is it meaningful? What about the parent who takes time off or puts a career on hold and raises a family? What about the unemployed? What about the student who hasn't done anything yet? Are they waiting for their mustard seed moment? Is it like winning the lottery? That's the problem. Is it like winning the lottery? Do we really think that God works like that? Sprinkling some mustard seeds on a few people, but the vast majority just slog away, hoping that their life has meaning. God uses all these various parables over and over again to show us over and over and over again that we matter. Today matters, and tomorrow matters, and what you are doing right now matters. The birds of the sky can find shelter. People can find a love they can trust, a life that is believable, a hope that is built on something real, not just fancy words. So you are all such people. And I hope that's what we want as a church, is to be that shelter, is to be I think we need to see that lie for what it is. We're worthy now, and that's worth. This whole point of the mustard seed is that we are part of this, and there is meaning, and people, we are providing shelter. And so my last question, takeaway is, are we looking for a beautiful life in the wrong way? So that's what I have for you this morning. I hope you could take something away from it. If there's more tree questions, I'll be outside, and we can talk about that. But I do want to say that I love this church. I love what Pastor Steve is doing. I've recently joined the board here after a few years off, but I just love being here, and I'm so glad to be here with you this morning, and I'm so excited for where we're going from here. And I think the metaphor of the mustard seed works here. Are we trying to become meaningful? No, I think we're meaningful now, and I think that that's the lie that we have to, or the thing that we always have to fight against. So, Matt, you can come on up. At this point, we're also going to do the bread and the cup, and I think there's part of the metaphor in there too. It's just a small thing of what we can show as as how we are part of all this together. So thank you. Sure. I'll pray. I turned it. Oh, thanks. We'll pray, and then we'll come on up if you feel like it. Jesus, we pray that you've spoken to our hearts in just even small ways. Would that grow and become something that we can increase our love for each other, increase our love for you, and enable us to go out and be that shelter for the vulnerable, for everyone. Show us the best way we can live, and be with us now. Amen.
By grace alone somehow I stand, where even angels fear to tread. Invited by redeeming love, before the throne of God above. He pulls me close with nail-scarred hands into his everlasting arms. When condemnation grips my heart and Satan tempts me to despair, I hear the voice that scatters fear. The great I am, the Lord is here. Oh, praise the one who fights for me and shields my soul eternally. Boldly I approach your throne. Blameless now I'm running home. By your blood I come, welcomed as your own, into the arms of majesty. Behold the bright risen sun, more beauty than this world has known. I'm face to face with love himself, his perfect spotless righteousness. 1,000 years, 1,000 tongues are not enough to sing his praise. Boldly I approach your throne. Blameless now I'm running home. By your blood I come, welcomed as your own, into the arms of majesty. This is the art of celebration, knowing we're free from condemnation. Oh, praise the one, praise the one who made an end to all my sin. Oh, praise the one
Well, thank you for coming this morning, everyone, and enjoy the summer day outside. And we'll see you hopefully next week, or not. It seems it's summer, so enjoy your day. And next week is at Trowbridge Falls. Where are we meeting, Scott? We're meeting in the parking lot. The parking lot. The one near the playgrounds. Okay, the one near the playgrounds. At... at 10. Okay, unless you hear otherwise.